We're at Rock Creek offices in Washington, D.C. This is our group that does our quantitative work here. I didn't move very far from the World Bank main headquarters, which is down the street, and the World Bank Treasury moved to literally 1 block up the street. So it's really nice to have my old colleagues really close by. I was in the investment group, then ran the derivatives business, and I was very happily doing my job when Jim Wolfensohn, who was president of the World Bank at the time, called me and asked me if I wanted to become vice president for financial policy. And I really loved Treasury. And I said no. And nobody said no to a big promotion and to Jim Wolfensohn. So there was a period of time when Jim wouldn't talk to me. We are very good friends, and I can say this now. So when the treasurer job came up, I think it was Nick Stern who happened to call me and said, if offered the job, will you accept it? And I said, I would love it, I would be so honored, and that's how I became treasurer. We had just had the Asian crisis, financial crisis, so we're coming out of the Asian financial crisis. So what was really interesting was at that time we were, on the one hand, borrowing money to lend to even the larger countries like the Koreas and others who were in a very difficult situation, and difficult to think of Korea today, having been in that situation. It's not such a huge long ago. And the other side was, as we were moving into year 2000, remember, I mean, now we're 2017, I think a lot of people don't even remember that, but we were really worried that the systems would not work, and the systems had not been set up to deal with 2000. Y2K, exactly. And so once we got on the other side after New Year and nothing went wrong, I can't tell you the sigh of relief. It's so interesting now to look back and think that the green bond, the first green bond, or the first e-bond, or the first global bond was revolutionary, or the first currency swap was revolutionary. I think for most people who are entering the market today, it's, you take all of these things for granted. But at the time, I think it had not been done. And I think the bank really and the Treasury staff were just so, again, the word really is entrepreneurial and innovative, to be able to work with the street, to work with technology firms and come up with the idea of a first e-bond. And it was very successful, as you know. Another thing that it helped us, which we haven't talked about, which was really interesting on our derivative side, is because we had a very, very strong quantitative team. We could take apart structured bond structures and ensure, again, that we were structuring these in the most cost-effective way. So we were borrowing far cheaper than our competition, which at that time was the Fannie Mae's and the Freddie Mac's and various other sovereigns, because we had this team that had the capability to really get into the weeds. So contrary to the current situation for women in Wall Street and in venture and private equity, where there are very few women, our women at the bank traveled everywhere for weeks on end. And did everything and had families. This is when they were much younger. Football, baseball. Oh, so the older one, wanted to go into medicine, and the younger one right now is an entrepreneur with a startup. And that's my parents here. I was fortunate because I grew up in Iran as one of 3 sisters. And my parents, both my father and mother, sort of made us feel you could do anything. And that was in Iran in the 70s, as I mentioned. Continue to remember what the mission is. The first bullet train was financed at the World Bank. And I remember going to the Tokyo office and being in Japan the first time as treasurer of the World Bank. The Japanese are so grateful that the bank did the first bullet train. I worked in Senegal on health sector and, helping a lot of, especially young girls and women. And if you remember that that's what it's about, and it's about helping others and making society more productive, the job becomes much easier. And I think it's really a few things. It's be mission-oriented and fight for your good ideas. On my last day at the bank had a big event, and I was given this flame as a gift on my departure from the World Bank.